Welcome back. This is Daniel Hindi. Today we're going to talk about the metrics that matter and the metrics that don't. So we've already spoken about working hard versus working smart and if they're mutually exclusive. We've spoken about establishing smart objectives, and we've spoken about accountability and growth for every department. What we're going to do today is talk about every department and making sure we're measuring what matters. Starting off with marketing. Now, what does the marketing department produce? They produce leads for the sales department to close. Now, what do you measure? The easy answer is we measure how many leads are coming in. But what about the quality of those leads? Now, remember, there's a sales funnel or a marketing funnel. You have impressions, people who've seen your advertising or seen your marketing, and then you have showing interest by interacting with that marketing piece of material, whether it's clicking on it or viewing a video in its entirety or whatever it may be. So that shows intent. Then they look at actually discovering and making a decision about your product and then converting. So what we want to look at is not just how many eyeballs see our marketing campaigns, but how many of them show intent on purchasing the product, and then how many of those actually qualify for a good potential customer. Sometimes your product is geared more towards the premium market or just requires a larger budget than some of these customers may have. So what you do is you create some sort of filtering and qualifying mechanism, which we call MQLs, Marketing Qualified Leads. Now, what we do with that is we basically ask the customer who shows intent to purchase a few questions. Maybe it could be company size. It could be what are your goals that you're trying to achieve with this product? Something that allows you to qualify this customer. It could be your position in the company. It could be which region you've come from. Something that qualifies that you're a high quality lead that has a high chance to actually close and become a customer. So that's what you really want to measure. Now, once you've established your MQLs, where you're filtering out the noise traffic to really customers that you have a good product market fit, at that point, you have to look at two major metrics. Your CAC, your customer acquisition cost. How much money did you have to put down to acquire this customer? And the LTV, the lifetime value of that customer. So you'll see this in a notation, LTV CAC ratio or LTV over CAC, to let you know if you're spending more money to acquire this customer, if you're spending more money acquiring this customer than what this customer will generate in revenue, then it's a bad fit. Either you need to tweak your marketing or increase your LTV, your pricing basically for your customer to make sure it makes sense, or potentially abandoning this type of marketing channel and going after something like outbound sales or something like that to make sure that your LTV to CAC ratio makes sense. It's basically generating more revenue than it's costing you to bring this customer in. So if you talk to your marketing department and they're talking about how many new ads are out there and how many eyeballs are seeing it, that really doesn't matter. It matters in the method, sure, in an implementation plan, that's fine. But to see at the end of the day, what are the goals for this department? It's LTV to CAC ratio and the number of MQLs, marketing qualified leads. Next up is sales. Now, what does the sales department produce? They produce orders. They take the leads and convert them in an order to say they want to purchase this product or service or subscription to your product and basically convert these potential customers into real paying customers. Now, again, you could just look at a dollar amount, how much revenue is coming in. Well, that is a fundamental good metric to look at, but there's also the meaning behind every metric and every dollar coming in. So for example, the easiest technique for any salesperson is to discount your product. That takes very little skill from the salesperson, just to say, if it's $100, I'll discount it in half. If it's $50, will you convert now? You need to measure how much discounting is occurring versus the more technical sale, which is establishing the value of your product and service so that the customer feels more comfortable that the return on their investment is high based on the value of the product, service, or subscription that they're purchasing. So you know that your sales team is just using cheap techniques. Let me just discount and bring in as much customers as possible. That's leaving money on the table. That's saying that you are undervaluing the product and service that we're selling. So that's something that you can tell by the ticket size, the order size on average for the sales team, and the lifetime value of that potential customer. Because you also see if it's, for example, a subscription or a product that you purchase, a subscription within a few months cancel, or a product gets a lot of returns and refunds, then you're looking at, okay, maybe my sales team is doing a little bit of a bait and switch tactic, and maybe we need to refine our message so that we can set customer expectations and alignment correctly. Another key thing that you want to look at with your sales team is the life cycle for the sales process. How long does it take to close a customer? Now, depending on what you're selling, that could be a first engagement on one conversation. You're able to close the customer, or that may take months. So you want to look at an average trend. Is that trend going up or down? And are they looking at techniques to make sure that they reduce that sales cycle? Next up is the product department. Now, the product department, if they're dealing with a physical good or a digital good, it's really about the quantity of features that are coming out and the quality of those features coming out. Now, whenever you look at these two, if you look at quantity, you could measure how many new features are being added to your product every month, but that's a bad metric to look at because it's not just about quantity. Sometimes too much confuses the customer. Sometimes you're focusing on the wrong feature set. You're developing features that the business thinks the customer wants, but the customer actually doesn't want it. So you need to take a look at customer feedback and if they're appreciating and utilizing the features that you are creating. You also need to look at the metrics that every product needs to adjust from a product perspective. It's either increasing conversion, increasing retention, or reducing cost. And reducing costs could help with true revenue, net revenue. But at the end of the day, you have to look at what you're working on. Is it affecting any one of these three? From the other side is the quality of what you are producing. From a quality perspective, are you producing a feature? Are you producing a new product that your customers are appreciating? And they show this either in increasing the amount of conversion, so the amount of leads that come in, see this new feature, and now they convert at a higher rate, or retention. People who were potentially going to churn and leave your product stay because they see this feature as an increased value, and you've reached that tipping point where the value of your product service is greater than the cost that they are paying. The third one is costs and efficiencies internally for the company. How much does it cost to provide the service? If the product team can develop features to reduce that cost, then it's affecting net margins. You could potentially reduce your prices or just enjoy a higher margin. Next up is customer support. Now, looking at customer support, some customer support actually help with the sales cycle. So people going to your website may have a quick question that customer support may help convert. But I'm going to keep that aside just for a second and look at retaining customers. So if you're measuring things like how many conversations have occurred, how many tickets were open and closed, that's a good metric to keep track of, but it's not the true metric to see if you're actually succeeding in your goal. The goal of customer support is to retain customers. So the metric you should be looking at is churn. Are you helping combat churn and reducing that number and increase retention? Are you looking at customer delight through an NPS score? How happy are your customers when they interact with your customer support? And you could see that through a net promoter score for your business through surveying your customers. The other thing is customer support has a really close ear to your customers. Are they dodging questions? Are they adjusting expectations with your customers? And are they bringing back good feedback for your product team to say, hey, you may not have a close ear to the customers as we do. Here are the features that they've been asking for, and here are the friction points that we can help resolve and help feed the product team a roadmap that really increases the amount of retention you have in your product and reduces churn. Next up is finance and accounting. What we're dealing here is with accounts receivables, account payables, and forecasting. With account receivables, you want to see how many delinquent accounts are out there and how are we combating that amount to see how many open invoices haven't been paid yet. Also with cash flow for accounts payable, to forecast, these are the commitments we made to our vendors to pay them out and to have a good, solid forecast of cash flow for the next quarter, for the next year, and so on. And looking at forecasting models to see if we hire new people, how much is every salesperson going to increase the value of the company, and are we going to generate more revenue, and does it make sense to hire in one department versus the other, and just to come up with financial models that back up certain decisions the business is contemplating to make sure that they're financially sound. Next up is the HR department. Now, generally when you think of human resource, you think of the department that deals with vacation days and policies and complaints. And while that is part of their job, the real metric of how do you measure success for this department is company culture. What kind of culture do you build in your company to see employee morale? Are employees happy to come into work every day or not? And are they hiring people that fit the company culture or fit the company culture you're trying to build? You may have a current culture that could be better. And so are you bringing in new human capital that allows you to increase the morale of the company or decrease, increase the brain trust of the company or decrease? So the type of people that are brought into the company, are they building the culture you really want for your company? And measuring that in a way through internal surveys to see what is the morale of the company, what is the defined culture of the company, and is the HR department helping build that or not? Now, in short, you really need to look at every single department, every little project that you work on, and make sure you're measuring what matters. You're measuring the effect of why you're taking on this initiative. And make sure that you always take a look at the metrics and that it's pushing your company in the right direction. Until next time, I hope that gave you clear and logical steps to measure what matters.